Okay, we're live.
All right.
All right, everyone. We are now live here at, well, online, but here with TextHelp for the Peru Impact Lab cohort. This is to do the overview on the resources that those of you going through the program with the Peru cohort and future cohorts for 2017, which include, of course, Brazil and include Bolivia and Chile. Those of you joining us live will be able to see all the stuff that you need to do for now. Those of you joining the recording, you will be able to follow up separately on email to be able to get access to your resources. So I wanted to briefly just say hello to you guys and then introduce Kathleen, who has joined us here from US. And Kathleen, where are you actually located right now?
Our US office is right outside Boston.
Okay, so you are in Boston right now?
Yeah, that's where I am.
Okay. All right, awesome. So I'm in Texas and Kathleen is in Boston. So Kathleen is joining us from Boston to share a little bit more about the different products that you guys are going to get access to, which include Read and Write and the Fluency Tutor. And of course, access to the others that you already can get access to. But she's going to be going over these particular tools with you guys today, and then we will do a short Q&A at the end of this session. But those of you who are joining us live and you are on the YouTube channel, you can post your questions throughout. I will be monitoring those and asking Kathleen any of those questions that you guys might have as they pop up. So feel free to ask them in the chat, and we'll definitely get to those. So a couple of quick things before I actually pass things over to Kathleen. I'm going to go ahead and just quickly share my screen. I want to remind you guys of a couple of things. And Kathleen, if you can verify that you can see my screen.
Yep, I can. You're all set.
Perfect. All right, so those of you in the Peru cohort so far would have received an email that looks like this, the one that's on my screen here. Those of you in the other cohorts will receive one that will be sent specific to you based on your cohort. But so far, the Peru folks, you would have received an email that looked just like this. And if you scroll through it, you'll find a little bit more information on TextHelp and also on the different products that Kathleen's going to be talking about today, like Read and Write and Fluency Tutor. You'll also see throughout that email a couple of buttons that remind you to register. You must click on this button and fill out the form that we're providing for you guys, so that when you fill this out, our good friends over at TextHelp are going to provide you access to those resources. You'll notice that, yes, you can go in now and create an account and get access to certain things for free, but we want to give you access to all of the features within these products. So you must fill out this form, and TextHelp will be in touch with you to be able to give you that particular license. And you are getting that license for a full year. So congratulations on that. And thank you to TextHelp for providing this to all of our cohort folks that are going through the Impact Lab program. All right, so just switching over here, and I'm really just going to hand this over to Kathleen. Just really quick, wanted to let you guys know that Kathleen is stepping in. You guys that were on the Hangout last time heard from Oscar, who you got to meet in Peru via Hangout. And Kathleen has stepped in to do the overview for us. She is the product manager for the US team, and is here to tell us a little bit more about what you guys are getting. So Kathleen, please take it over.
Awesome. All right. Yep. So I'm Kathleen. And in my role as product manager, I really work across all of our different Google products. So it's really great to be able to talk to people that are using it, get questions, get feedback. So please do feel free to give me that kind of stuff in the questions panel there as we're going along, because it's really helpful in my role to kind of see what kinds of questions people have and how people are going to be using our tools. So I will get started here. I'm going to talk about Read and Write for Google Chrome and Fluency Tutor for Google today. So let me just share my screen, and I'll start off with some slides here to just get started. And Monica, if you just want to let me know if you can see this.
Yes, I can see your slide deck. Yep, it's pulled up.
Okay, great. All right. So like I mentioned, we'll talk about Read and Write and Fluency Tutor today, which are two of the products that you all will be getting access to. And I've already introduced myself in person, so we don't need a black and white photo there. So, you probably are, somewhat familiar with TextHelp and what we do and the sorts of tools that we offer. But, our goals can kind of be driven down to kind of one statement that we know technology can help students. And when we build different types of tools to help students, there's really kind of two main focuses that we have. We want to build technologies and build tools that can allow students to interact with content in different ways. So depending on their learning styles or their learning needs, offering different tools that allow them to, whether it be like listening to text or getting a visual representation of text or tools to help them with writing. So all these different things we want to make available to students so they can, absorb and interact with their online books and with web pages and with Google Docs in whatever way is most helpful for them. And then the other big piece of that as well is that we want to build tools that integrate right inside of the environments where students are working. So with Google, that's a really big piece because, students are working inside of Google Docs, they're working on the web, they're working in PDF files in their Google Drive, and we want these tools to be available right inside of those places. They're not as effective if students have to go open up a separate program just to access those tools. We want them to be built right into the environments that they're in. So those are kind of the two big pieces that we'll see throughout some of the products here that we'll look at today. So when we talk about technologies that can help, there's kind of some specific types of tools that we're talking about, and we'll see these in both Read and Write and Fluency Tutor. So one of the big pieces of technology that we know can help all different types of students and different types of learners is text-to-speech. So being able to hear content read aloud. Dictation tools and word prediction tools that can help students with writing, dictionaries and translators that can provide kind of additional support for comprehending individual words within like a longer document or a longer web page that they might be reading, highlighters and annotation tools, all these sorts of things. These are the types of technologies that we know can be effective, not just for maybe students with particular learning needs, but students who are learning English as a second language, which I know all of you are working with, and really all types of learners can benefit from some or all these tools in some types of way. So we'll be looking at a lot of these with Read and Write and with Fluency Tutor. So we'll start with Read and Write. For those of you who you may already have some familiarity with the tool, Read and Write is basically a toolbar that integrates right inside of Google, and it's made up of a lot of those different types of tools that I highlighted on the previous slide. So the idea is that it's this one toolbar accessible wherever students need it, whether they're inside a Google Doc, whether they're in a PDF, or whether they're on the web, and it's made up of all these different literacy supports. So when you're inside a Google Doc, you can have text read aloud, you can look up words in a dictionary, you can use word prediction. So this is one of kind of the three main areas that Read and Write can be used in. And then the same on the web. So when you're on a web page in Chrome, students just open up their Read and Write toolbar, and again, they have access to all these different supports. And then in PDFs, or if they're using KES files or EPUB files within their Google Drive, again, they just open those files up and they've got their toolbar right at the top. So that's kind of a really quick high-level overview of the different areas where Read and Write is working. So now I'm going to hop out of these slides and actually show you the program live and working. So Read and Write is a Chrome extension. So for all of you that since you're using G Suite or formerly Google Apps for Education, you may be familiar with things like Google Drive and Google Docs, and there's some kind of higher level technical things that you might be familiar with as well, like apps and extensions. So Google extensions are little tools that basically add on additional things that you can do inside of Drive or inside of Chrome. So Read and Write is an example of an extension because it adds all of these literacy supports right into Google. So all your apps and extensions that you could ever want to find live in the Chrome Web Store. So the easiest way to find Read and Write, you can search TextHelp or you can search for Read and Write inside that Chrome Web Store. And it'll be listed here under extensions. When you have it installed, there's a few different places that we can use it. So here, since I already have it installed, I'm all set. But if you were to install it for the first time, there'd be a little blue button right here that says Add to Chrome. And when you've got it installed, if I go into a Google Doc now, you'll see I have this little purple puzzle piece at the top of my document, and that's my Read and Write toolbar. So when I click on that, it's going to bring down my Read and Write toolbar, and these are all the different support tools that I've mentioned already that we can access to work with this text. So as a student, one of the first things that I might want to do is have this text read aloud. This can be an especially helpful tool for students who may struggle with reading, and they're more easily able to absorb higher level content by listening to it rather than having to read it to themselves. So I just put my cursor wherever I want to start reading, and then I'll click the play button up here, and you should hopefully be able to hear this come through.
Earth is the third planet from the Sun and the densest planet in the solar system. It is also the largest of the solar system's four.
So a couple of things that we can see here happening. In addition to the highlighting, in addition to the voice reading, we have this dual color highlighting. So it's highlighting one sentence in one color while tracking along with each word in a different color. And that's really helpful for students to, not only it increases comprehension, but it allows them to follow along with each word as it's read, so they can match up what it sounds like with word on the screen. It's kind of similar to, when I was a kid, I remember my parents would read to me, and as they read, they point their finger along each word as they're saying it, so I can make that kind of visual and auditory connection there. Now, if I don't...
Kathleen, sorry to interrupt you. Just really quick, for whenever you do have audio again, if you could just bring your volume up on your computer just a little bit. We could hear, but it was faint. It was like really low.
Oh, sure. Yep. I'll deafen myself so you all can hear.
Thank you.
No problem. So I can change in addition to changing the volume, I can also change the speed of the voice or even select a different voice depending on my preference. So if I come up here to the settings menu on my Read and Write toolbar, I can change the speed of the reading by using this slider bar. I can also turn on or off continuous reading. So this setting would allow it to either just keep reading through the document until it reaches the end, or if I just want it to read kind of sentence by sentence as I select it, then I can use that setting. And I can also choose from a bunch of different voices here. So I can choose from other, US English voices to read English text. If I were working with Spanish text or French text or text in other languages, I could choose a matching voice to read that as well. So lots of different customization here for reading. This is also where I can set my translation language, which I'll get to in a bit. Now, in addition to the text-to-speech, let's look at some of the other kind of comprehension tools here that students can use. So one of the most popular tools here is the dictionary. So I can select a word from my document. So let's say I'll choose planet, and I can come up here and open my dictionary. And the dictionary is going to give me a definition for this word, and I can also hear the definition read aloud.
Noun. One of the large objects that move about in space around the source of light. We live on the planet Earth.
So hopefully you're able to hear that a little bit better. So I can hear that definition read aloud, and again with that dual color highlighting to help with the comprehension as I'm reading it. I can also use a picture dictionary. So again, if I have that word selected and I come up here to my picture dictionary, this is going to give me an image representation. We use the widget communications library, which are symbols for a large number of words that just to help provide an additional means of comprehending a word. I can also use the Translator Tool. So again, if I have that word selected, I come up here to my translator. And again, I can hear that word read aloud in the proper accent.
Planeta.
And this is a single word translator. So, Google has built-in tools for being able to highlight an entire document or an entire web page and translate the whole thing into another language. But the purpose behind the translator tool in Read and Write is to sort of be able to provide context. So keeping that word in the context of the document and just picking out individual words that might need to be translated is often a more powerful tool than just thing and sort of losing the English context. And one of the other kind of popular comprehension tools here is Fact Finder. So the Fact Finder tool allows you to do a quick Google search in a new tab on any amount of text that you select. So it might be, if you want to get a more advanced definition for a word, or you want to do some additional research on a topic. So I could select the phrase solar system and come up here to my Fact Finder tool. And then that's going to do a Google search on solar system. So I can get some, additional research or news results or images or whatever I may want. So those are some of the kind of comprehension and reading related supports that work inside of Google Docs. So all these different tools that really allow students to work with the content in different ways depending on what their needs are. So now I'll move on to talk about some of the more writing-focused supports in Google Docs. So the first one that I'll highlight is word prediction. So if I set up a new line here, so word prediction is a really powerful writing support tool. It kind of originally may have started out as something to help students with physical disabilities who had trouble typing, but it can be really helpful for any student that either, just needs some help getting their thoughts down, or students who might be struggling with spelling words in the English language or with grammar. It can really help students to use more advanced vocabulary, write longer sentences, write on more advanced topics because they're not necessarily held back by more limited vocabulary that they may have on their own. So it's a really powerful tool for enhancing writing. So if I turn on my word prediction and I'll start typing here, so it starts off with a list of common words that I might start a sentence with, but you can see as I type, those letters are changing to suggest relevant words for me. I can hover over any of the words to hear it read aloud.
Today is.
And it will help with spelling errors too. So if I don't have that spelling just right, I can still find the word that I need.
Thursday. Thrust.
Another really effective use of the word prediction tool is it can be used in conjunction with some of the other tools. So if I were to turn my word prediction back on, if I were trying to type the word phone, but I wasn't sure that it began with a PH, and I type F-O-N, you can see that in addition to words that do begin with F-O-N, we're getting some PH words in there, so it helps with kind of common phonetic spelling errors. And I can even turn on my dictionary and picture dictionary. So if I'm not sure which of these words in the list is the right one to choose, I just hover over it.
Phone.
And that dictionary and picture dictionary are going to update with a definition and an image to help me choose the right word.
Font.
So I'll know that phone is the one that I want to insert. And word prediction also, in addition to I've been clicking on the word to insert it into the document, but you can also use Control and the number that's next to the word. So there is that keyboard shortcut as well. So that's just a little bit a look at word prediction. Another really popular writing support tool is speech input. So our speech input tool actually, we used to have our own speech input tool in Docs, but then Google came out with Google Voice Typing, which is a really powerful tool, not only for typing inside of Docs, but for doing other sorts of like keyboard commands and punctuation commands. So, we figured we may as well use their tool because it's so powerful. So if you go up to your speech input icon on the read and write toolbar, that's going to open up Google's voice typing. Earth is the third planet in the solar system, period, new line. So in addition to typing in the sentence there, I can use commands like period, comma, there's some other punctuation ones that work as well, and I can say new line to move on to a new line. So that's, again, a really powerful tool, not just for students that may have physical trouble with writing, but it's really a productivity tool for students who may have trouble with spelling, but they're able to tell a story or, orally dictate something. It makes it really easy for them to write into documents that way. And then another one of the really great kind of writing focused tools, I'm just going to clear out these extra sentences here, is the voice notes tool. So for those of you that are familiar with kind of the Google ecosystem, you know that in Docs and Sheets and Slides and all those different areas, you can do commenting. So you can type comments into a document, and it's a really easy way to collaborate with other people. You could leave a comment for a student, and then the student could comment back, and you can get a conversation going and all those sorts of things that are, they're really great collaboration things about Google. So the voice notes tool within Read and Write kind of takes that to the next level. So you can actually leave a voice comment for a student, or a student could leave a voice comment, for a teacher within a doc. So if let's say I'm a teacher and this is a student's, paper that they've written, so I want to leave some feedback. So all I need to do is select wherever I would like to leave some feedback, and I'll come up here to my voice notes icon. And then I'll hit record, and I have up to a minute to record my voice. So I might say, read this paragraph and make sure that you include more details. And then once I'm all set, I can listen to my recording again, or when I'm ready, I just hit insert. And that's going to insert right as a comment on the side of the document. Oh, it didn't do it. It should have a little play button here. Let me try that again. Voice notes seems to be the feature that always struggles under live demos where something has to go wrong, but I'll give this another try. Reread this paragraph and make sure to include more details. So I can play it back. Reread this paragraph and make sure to include more details. All right, so I'll give this another try. Hopefully it will work. If it doesn't work though, so yeah, I'm sorry about that. I'm not sure what's going on with it right now, but it's the rule of live demos. Something has to go wrong. But what should happen is this comment should populate with a little play button, kind of like what you could see in the voice notes menu there. And then when my student goes into this document, they can click on that play button and hear my voice recorded for them. So it's a really great tool, again, for teachers to be able to leave feedback for their students. Or students might use it if, let's say there's a worksheet where a teacher wants them to provide an oral response to a question, or there's a paragraph that the teacher wants them to read aloud. So they could record themselves reading or record themselves giving an oral response, and that recording will go right inside the document. And anyone else that has access to the document would be able to listen to the recording as well. So it really feeds nicely into the collaboration in Google. And I'm sorry I wasn't able to get that working for you today. So that's kind of a nice look at most of the tools in Google Docs. I'm going to switch gears now and look at some of the tools that we can use when we're on the web. So a lot of those are going to look really similar to what we've seen here, but I'll cover a few new things on the web. Unless, Monica, are there any questions at this stage, or you want me to keep going?
No, just some questions around being able to access the recording later and stuff like that. But other than that, we're good. Yeah.
Okay, great. We'll keep going then. So now I'm going to switch over to a web page. So on Google Docs, you remember we found our little puzzle piece right here at the top of the document. So when I'm on the web, I come over to my extensions area over here in Chrome, and you see again we have that little purple puzzle piece. So I'm going to click on that, and that's going to launch my Read and Write web toolbar. So again, a lot of the same tools that we saw in Docs are also available on the web, and they work pretty much the same way. So I'll start off by showing you a little bit of the text-to-speech. So on the web, a little bit different than Docs, we have this tool called Hover Speech. So this is especially good for the web because if you want to read like a hyperlink on a web page, if you try to select it to read it, you might accidentally click on it. So the Hover Speech tool just allows you to hover your mouse right over any text and it will be read aloud. So I'll show you how that works.
The unique geography of the Arctic leads to unique weather patterns that reappear in the region year after year.
So again, I could use that on one of these hyperlinks as well, and it just makes it easier to not click on the link by accident. So again, some of the same, speech settings. I can change the voice, I can change the speed, just like I did in Docs. Again, here we have our comprehension supports, so dictionary, picture dictionary, translator. So I could select a word here and look it up in the dictionary.
Noun. The regions to the north of the Arctic Circle centered on the North Pole.
And picture dictionary and all those sorts of things are going to work here as well. One of the features that I like to show on the web that kind of puts together the dictionary and the picture dictionary is the vocabulary list builder. So you'll see we have these 4 colored highlighters on the toolbar. Those were also in the Google Docs toolbar. So I can use those highlighters to select individual words from my article, maybe words that I'm having trouble with, topic-specific words that I want my students to study more, or as a student, they might just be words that I find challenging. So I can go through this article and highlight a few words. So I just select a word and then choose a highlight color for it. Let's see, so we'll do, select a few random ones here. And once I've got those words selected, I click on this vocabulary list icon. And what it's going to do is it's going to take those words that I've selected and it's going to put them into a brand new Google document. And in that document, it will have the words, and we can see it's being generated right now. So it will have the words that I selected, a definition for them from the dictionary, an image from the picture dictionary, and then a 3rd column or 4th column for notes. So I could even change this if I wanted to. I could say use in a sentence, or I could add a 5th column and say translate into Spanish. Because it's a Google Doc, I can kind of make it whatever I want for my students to use, or as a student, I could make it whatever kind of tool would be most helpful to me. So a lot of different uses for this, especially as a teacher. If you generate a vocabulary list like this, you could then share it with students, have them fill in that empty column with an example sentence or a translation, all these sorts of things. So lots of different applications for that. And again, because it integrates right with Google, this is now a Google Doc, so it's in my Drive. I can share it. I can make a copy of it. I can, move it around, edit it however I'd like. So all that sort of customization is there for you. Going back to my web page, I can also just use these colored highlighters to select information, like if I'm doing research for a paper, and I can collect all the highlights into a doc. So I'm going to clear out these ones that I've just done by just clicking the clear icon. And let's say I'm doing research for a paper of some kind. So I might want to highlight kind of main ideas in one color. So we'll use blue for that, and I'm just going to select some kind of random text, but we can imagine that these are pieces of information that are relevant to kind of the main ideas of my paper. And then I might want to use the purple for supporting details. So I'll pick some information there. And now once I've highlighted this from my web page, I can now use this other icon, which is the Collect Highlights button. And I can collect these all into a new Google Doc. So I just choose which of the colors I want to include, and I choose how I want to sort them. Click OK. And again, this is going to generate a brand new Google document for me with all of that information that I just highlighted. So now this is a great transition into writing an outline for that paper. And it even includes a link back to the original website that I started on. And again, because it's in Google, it's a doc. So if I'm doing this as a student, I could now share this with the other students that I might be working with on this project, or I can share it with my teacher. All those sorts of things are possible. A few more tools that we'll look at on the web here. So some of the things that I didn't highlight in Docs, I will talk about here. So one of those is the speech maker. This is actually one of our newer features that we released. So I can select some of the text from this web page, or I could select all of it if I wanted to. And I can use the speech maker tool to convert it into an MP3. So when I click on that, it's converting that text into an MP3. Oh, unable to generate audio at this time. Well, that would take the text and convert it into an MP3 and download it right to my computer. So then as a student, I could take that and I could listen to it on my phone or MP3 player on the go, wherever I may need it. So that's just another great way for students to be able to absorb that text. And one of the other tools that we can look at here is screen masking. So this might be helpful for students that want kind of help being able to focus on a specific area of the screen. So they can use this screen masking tool to select certain areas of the screen to help them with focus or whatever it may be. Just another kind of handy tool to have there on the web and in Docs as well. And then the last tool that I'll highlight on the web is the Simplified Tool. So this website is actually pretty good as far as, not having a lot of kind of distracting stuff on the margins like advertisements or other links to other pages. But we know that there are a lot of websites out there that have, ads and scrolling things and videos and pictures and, all this stuff that kind of distracts from the content that we want students to be focusing on. So the Simplified tool can be used to kind of strip all of that out, and it just opens up a new tab with kind of the, a basic format so students can really focus on the important material from the article that they're reading. So this just gives a nice simplified version of the page. And again, I can use my read and write toolbar here. So once I've got the simplified version, I can read the text aloud and use the dictionary and picture dictionary and all those sorts of tools again. And I can even simplify it further by using the plus and minus, and it will kind of strip out some of the information. So if I wanted to start with something more basic, I can simplify it and then sort of incrementally add bits back in to kind of help me absorb all of that content. So that's kind of a look at some of the tools on the web. The last piece that I'll show you really quickly is in PDFs. So Read and Write is available in Google Docs in that toolbar that I showed. On the web in this toolbar. The two of those look very similar. The PDF viewer, we actually are just in the process of coming out with a brand new PDF viewer. But for right now, I'm going to show you the current viewer. So if I have a PDF in my Google Drive, I can open that right up. And you'll see it looks a little bit different than the other two toolbars. But it is this toolbar along the top. And again, I can interact with the text in a lot of the same ways. So in PDFs for text-to-speech, we have what's called the click-to-speak tool. So if I come up here and turn on click-to-speak, I can then click anywhere in the PDF and have it read aloud.
In schools across the United States, physical education has been substantially reduced, and in some cases completely.
In addition to text-to-speech, again, we have those very familiar tools that we've looked at now, dictionary, translator, picture dictionary. We have the highlighters, so I can build a vocabulary list or I can collect highlights into a new document. Two of the things I'll quickly show you that are different in PDFs are the annotation tools. So I can make a text annotation on this PDF. I'll come up here to my typewriter annotation tool, and then I just click, and I can type a note, review paragraph 3 for our research paper. Just putting in, a note that I might leave for myself or for my students that I'm working with. And now that I have this annotation, I can drag it and place it wherever in the PDF that I'd like to put it. And anyone else that has access to this PDF will be able to see my annotations as well. And then another great use of that tool is for fill-in-the-blank assignments. So if this were a PDF worksheet, you could use that annotation tool to insert responses. And then as a teacher, you'd be able to open that up and see the students' responses inside of those annotations. And you can also print the PDF with those annotations showing as well. So I do want to leave time for Fluency Tutor, which I may already left myself too little time, but that's kind of an overview of read and write. So again, all these different literacy support tools available in kind of those three main environments: Google Docs, PDFs, and on the web. Again, just allowing students to interact with the content in different ways depending on their learning styles and learning needs, and all those sorts of things, all those tools built right into the environments for them. So I'm going to switch gears now. I'll pop back into my presentation here for a moment, and we'll leave a little bit of time to talk about Fluency Tutor. So Fluency Tutor, switching gears a little bit, the idea behind Fluency Tutor, to give you kind of a little bit of a history of it, it started out, the idea behind the program started out as a tool to help students that are learning to read. So young students, in the US, we'd say like kindergarten through grade 3, where the focus is on learning to read. But we've actually found kind of through the use of Fluency Tutor that we have a wider audience, not just with those kind of younger students, but with older students who, though they may no longer be in a grade where the focus is on learning to read, but it's more on focusing on reading to learn. But they may still kind of be falling behind in the mechanics of reading, even though the content itself has gotten more complicated. So Fluency Tutor is designed to support those students and still give them kind of practice with being able to learn how to read when the content that they're reading in school may have gotten a little bit more advanced. And we want to build avid readers with this tool. So the idea behind it is how in the US, and this may differ, in other schools and other programs, but in the US, kind of it's based on how we teach children to read fluently, which is quickly, accurately, and with expression. And how this is done is by measuring a student's words correct per minute. So the way that that's done in schools now is, you sit there and have the student read in front of you, and you have the passage in front of you on paper, and you're going through and marking errors and timing them. And it's a very challenging process, not only for the student because it's pretty high pressure, but for the teacher too. So Fluency Tutor is taking this and making it digital and making it more easy to accomplish and more engaging. So let's take a look at Fluency Tutor. The idea behind Fluency Tutor is teachers can assign reading passages to students. Students can then listen to them. They can use text-to-speech. They can use a dictionary, picture dictionary, to listen to the content and understand it, and then they can record themselves reading and send the recording to their teacher. So rather than having to sit in front of their teacher during class time or out in the hallway, reading orally, they can do this on their own time in whatever space is comfortable for them. They send that recording to their teacher, and then the teacher can score it on their own time as well. And it also allows the student to read different types of content that they might be interested in, and the teacher can assign different types of content. So it really makes that process more flexible and more engaging. So I'm in my Fluency Tutor teacher dashboard. So when you first install Fluency Tutor from the Chrome Web Store, just like where I got Read and Write, when you first install, it's going to ask you, are you a teacher or are you a student? So you would all choose teacher, and it will take you right to this dashboard. When you first get in there, it's probably going to look a little bit more empty than mine does, but as you begin to share passages and do assignments with your students, it will start to populate with more data like mine has here. So the way you want to start out with Fluency Tutor is to share a passage with your students. And there's sort of 3 different ways that you can do this. The easiest way is to choose from one of almost 500 passages or so that we have built into the Fluency Tutor app. So if I come down here to share a passage, I can choose from, again, almost 500 or so different passages that are built in here. I can sort them or filter them by Lexile level. We also have DRA and a couple other reading level systems in here, depending on what may be relevant. You can also sort by reading age or even by keyword. So, I could search for passages having to do with sports or something along those lines. Once I have selected a passage that I want to share with my students, I'll go in here. So let's say I want to share this Friends for Life passage. I can see the Lexile level, the reading age is 9, I can see the word count, and I can preview the content of the passage so I can decide if that's something that I'm interested in sharing with my student. In addition to sharing the passage, I can also share comprehension questions. So the student would make a recording of themselves reading, and they would also then answer 4 or 5 comprehension questions just based on the passage that they read. So when let's say I've decided that I want to share this with my student, there are 2 different ways that I can share that. And this is where the Google integration becomes really important. So I can share this passage right through Google Drive. So that would just be typing in a student's email address and sending it to them that way. So I'll show you what that looks like. So I'm going to share this with my little just demo account that I use. So we'll share that. I can also share it through Google Classroom, though. So I'm not able to show you that right here, but I'll try to switch over and show it to you if we have time at the end. But if you have Google Classroom set up, you can share this passage with one of your classes, and it will post as an assignment in your Google Classroom. So then all of your students in that class can open the passage and make their recordings straight from Google Classroom. So that's a really, really great integration there. So now that I've shared this with my student, I'm going to switch over and show you what that looks like from the student side. So I'm going to go into my student Google Drive here. So when a student receives a passage, they can either open it from Classroom, as I mentioned, or they can open it through Google Drive or through their Gmail. So I can see it here in my Shared With Me. So I'm going to open that up. And as a student, if I have my Fluency Tutor app installed from the Chrome Web Store, it opens right up into this nice page. So this is what the student would see for this passage. So before they start recording themselves reading, there are a number of other things that they can do, and these are some of the same tools that will be familiar from Read and Write. So firstly, I can listen to the text read out loud, and again, I can choose a different voice or a different reading speed depending on what I'd like. So I'm going to hit the play button here.
The novel Friends for Life is a story about a girl who learns what friendship means.
So I can hear that read aloud. If I want to look up a word in the dictionary, I just select that, look up it in the dictionary. Again, I can click on any of the definitions to hear them read aloud.
Noun. The state or feeling of being friends, I value or...
I can look up a word in the picture dictionary. Or in the translator. And the translation language would be something that the teacher would set in the settings menu back when they shared the passage.
Invitar. Convidar.
So once I'm all set with listening to the passage and looking up any unfamiliar words, as a student, I can now record myself. So I'm just going to hit the record button. I'll just read like a sentence here so you guys can kind of get a feel for how that works. So I'll just hit start recording. The novel Friends for Life is a story about a girl who learns what friendship means. So let's say as a student, I completed reading the whole passage there, but I won't make you listen to me do that right now. And when I'm all set, I can listen back to my recording. I can download it. But when I'm done, I'm just going to click I'm finished, and that's going to send the recording right to my teacher. So now let's switch back again, and we'll see what this looks like for the teacher. So as a teacher, I'm going to go back to my dashboard, and we'll see at the very top of it that there should be, so there's a little red dot here that tells me I have a new activity. So my student has just finished reading Friends for Life. And you can see a couple of things here. I can actually see the different support tools that they used. And if I hover over each of these icons, I can see even the actual word that they looked up. So this might be a way to, kind of be able to tell certain areas that the student might need support in. So I can see the dictionary, the translator, and the picture dictionary, and I can even create one of those vocabulary lists that we saw in Read and Write. So if I were to click this vocabulary list button, it would create a brand new Google Doc, again, with those words and a dictionary definition and an image and that extra third column. So just another way to kind of provide extra practice for students that may need it. So I can now listen to the recording that they've made. I'm actually going to, I'll show you this for this second recording because it's at least a minute long. We want a recording that's a little bit longer than 8 seconds just for this part. So if I come down to the second recording here, I can listen to it. I can give my students some quick feedback. So either give them a thumbs up or ask them to try again. But what I want to get into now is how to actually score the passage. And this is a tool, this area is a premium feature, so you all would have access to the ability to do this as part of your program with Fluency Tutor. So on the screen, this is where I would actually score my students' reading. So all I need to do is hit play, and as I listen to the recording, I'm just going to follow along and click on any words where the student might make an error. So I will show you a little bit about how that works. So I'll just hit play. The novel Friends for Life is a story about a girl who... So I'm going to click the word who there and mark a hesitation because I took a little bit long when I was about to start reading that word. And you'll see as soon as I choose the error, it's going to immediately resume playing the recording for me. Learns what friendship means. So that was my attempt at a mispronunciation. Phoebe and Mia are best friends. One day. So I won't keep playing it there, but basically I would continue to listen to the recording, and as I identify errors, I just click on the word and choose the type of error that the student made. So that might be an omission. I can mark self-corrections. So self-corrections won't actually count against the student in their score, but it's just a way of knowing, marking that the student did make a self-correction there. So let's say I make it all the way through here. I'll just mark a few more errors. And you can see as I'm selecting these errors, the metrics on the side here are adjusting. So I automatically have my scores here. I have my words per minute, words correct per minute, self-correction rate, percentage of words correct. I also can see the comprehension score for this student. So I had assigned comprehension questions to go along with this particular reading. And if I click on this little I symbol, I can see a breakdown of which answers they got correct or incorrect. And all the numbers here are calculated for me automatically as I go through and mark the errors. And when I'm all set, I just hit Save Scoring. I can now go through and fill out a little rubric. So I'll mark the student's expression, their phrasing, smoothness, and pace. And then this gives me just a little average of those 4 scores, and I can leave some feedback. And when I'm all set, that's going to go right back to my student, and they'll be able to see my feedback on their dashboard. And now, I'm running low on time here, but one of the most powerful things about Fluency Tutor is all of these scores that I've done for my student, I can see a nice graph of their progress through the school year. So if I go into my Students tab, and I go look at this particular student. Let's see if I adjust the date range here, I'll be able to see. So I can see a nice graph over time. I can see a list of all of their activities, and I can see this graph of their words correct per minute and their fluency score over time. So this can be a really powerful tool for tracking progress throughout the entire school year. And I did also mention, I showed you just now how to pick from one of our passages that are built into Fluency Tutor, but you can actually really work with an unlimited amount of content here, because if there's some content on the web that you wanted to have your students read, if you don't find anything that works well that's built into our passages, if I go onto the web, all I have to do is install my Fluency Tutor extension, which is really easy to do right from your teacher dashboard. If I click on this little Fluency Tutor icon next to my Read and Write icon, it's going to turn that article that I found into a passage as well. So this really gives me unlimited content. We have the passages built into Fluency Tutor. We have anything from the web. You can even type your own into Fluency Tutor and create that into a passage. And this would be a great use of, you can even do passages in Spanish, and students can read it in Spanish and listen to it with a Spanish voice. So a lot of different uses of Fluency Tutor here with really unlimited content. So I know I'm running up on about our 10-minute mark that we wanted to leave for questions. So Monica, are there any questions at this point?
None have come through other than just asking about being able to access this recording and being able to share and all that kind of good stuff. Otherwise, really just love for the resources. We're just in the back channel saying how much we love these tools. They're so great. I personally love the fact that in Fluency Tutor, you can, you're able to manage everything from one place, which is so helpful for a teacher. And so I did have a question which may come up, and I don't know if you address this or not. When teachers are assigning things to students from this tool, how does that work as far as access to the resources? Because you guys are providing the resources to the teachers, right? To all the people who are participating with us. So when a teacher sets this up and wants to use this tool and give access to the student to do that assignment, is there something we have to do to get the students access, or if the teacher sets up her students in here, that's all that's needed?
Yep. So the first time that a teacher might assign a passage to a student, or a student might want to use this, they will just need to install the Fluency Tutor app from the Chrome store,
Okay.
but they don't need to worry about like registering for premium access or anything like that. As long as the teacher will assign a passage to that student, and then the student will automatically have access to all of the features. They would just need to go and install it from the Chrome store to start off.
Got it. Excellent. So that's really great to know, because we were trying to figure that part out. We're like, how's this going to work? So that's great. Yeah. So then, yeah, we'll let everybody know when you guys send out the licenses that's part of the workflow that they're going to have to do to make that happen. And so for those of you watching live, make note of that. And for those of you who are watching the recording, definitely make note of that to make sure that you guys are all set. So it doesn't look like questions are coming through. We've got folks watching live. They've just been praising the tools and loving them. So thanks for sharing all the info on all this stuff. I think the recording is going to be really valuable to folks to be able to go back and sort of, once they're in there, to be able to unpack it and check out some of these resources that you were talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm going to go and just share my screen again. For those of you that joined us a little bit after we had gotten started, you probably missed my initial announcement. So Kathleen, if you can just confirm once again that you can see my screen.
Yep, all set.
Okay, and you know what? I need to switch over to me so that they can see mine on the video. All right, there we go. Okay, so once again, everyone, you received an email from us that had the information about getting access to these resources. And so check your email, check your spam if you haven't seen this before, and if you don't have it, just shoot me an email. I will send a follow-up reminder as well, just in case some folks haven't seen it. But this is what it would look like. It has information about TextHelp, as well as the resources that Kathleen just shared with us. So read and write, as well as Fluency Tutor. And all throughout that particular email, you're going to see some register now buttons, because in order for you to get access to these great resources that Kathleen just shared with us, you have to sign up. Once you sign up, you're going to fill out this form. And once you sign up, you're going to have access to these resources for a full year. And this is something that TextHelp has offered our Impact Labbers. And so it's definitely a really great opportunity. So make sure that you take advantage of that. In that email, you'll also see Oscar's email address as well as mine. So if you have any questions or if you need anything, please feel free to reach out to either one of us to be able to connect and answer any questions that you guys might have, in addition to what you've seen already here. And the cool thing is, too, that in these emails, you'll also find video tutorials that are linked for each of these as well. So in addition to what Kathleen has already shared with us, you guys are going to be able to get even more video resources to be able to support you as you begin to use these different tools. All right, you guys, so I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen there, and I'm just going to wrap it up here. Thank you so much for those of you who were live with us today. Those of you on the recording, we hope that you've picked up some really good tips and ways to use these resources, and we can't wait for you guys to start using them. Thanks for being here.